It all started with an itch. It woke him up in the middle of the night, a bad itch on the tip of his right thumb. He scratched it and rubbed it against his other fingers, and eventually the itching subsided. Either that or he fell asleep. When Greg woke up and had gone into the bathroom for his morning leak, he remembered the itchy thumb and took a look at it and screamed. The tip of his right thumb was scored by a grid pattern of small but deep holes. And in each hole there was something white and moving as if alive. Greg put the thumb under the tap and ran the hot water until it was scalding, all the time rubbing frantically, as if trying to rub the perforations and the little white things, whatever they were, completely off. After a few minutes, the thumb, his whole hand, began to burn, and so Greg pulled it out and examined it. The marks and the white things were gone, leaving what appeared to be a red, jagged cut. After a quick shower, Greg wrapped the thumb in bandages and made a mental note to call the doctor as soon as he got to work. But Greg was destined to never make that call. The itching started up again during Greg's half-hour commute to the office. It was so intrusive, he found it hard to concentrate on his driving. So for once, he was really glad to get to work. Greg was in his cubicle and just about to phone the doctor for an appointment when he noticed the bandages had come loose. They had come loose, and now Greg could see a number of thin, white filaments, like tiny albino worms, poking out from under the bandage and waving back and forth as if they were looking for something. Greg stifled a cry as he slammed his hand on the desktop before rubbing his thumb against the edge of the desk in a frantic attempt to scrape the things off. He then tore away the bandages and began plucking at the things, trying to pull them out. But they seemed to have fully taken root and wouldn't come loose. For an instant, he even considered grabbing his scissors to see if he could cut them off. Greg stumbled to the washroom, colliding with a colleague who spilled the coffee they were carrying down the front of their clothes and who called out, "Hey!" to which Greg stammered an apology. Inside the washroom, he wrapped the thumb in toilet paper, then staggered to the boss's office. "I have to go to the hospital," Greg blurted. "Today?" the boss said, clearly taken aback. "We've got that big sales meeting this morning. What's wrong, anyways?" In reply, Greg ripped off the toilet paper and held out his hand. The white stalks or stems had all grown longer, perhaps as much as an inch, and they seemed to writhe and twist under the stark fluorescent light. The boss leapt back and yelled, Go! Get that out of here!" Somehow Greg made it to his car, but once inside he found he was unable to drive. The white hairs were now so long and so thick, they really did look like white worms. So thick and long, he could no longer grip the steering wheel, and the infection seemed to have spread. There were now perforations and sinewy white hairs on several fingers and on the palm of his right hand. He had a wild and feverish and hysterical thought. Beware the man who has hairs on the palm of his hands. With his good hand, Greg leaned forward and began to sound the horn, keeping it on until the noise brought security. Call an ambulance," Greg mumbled, and then he passed out. But before he did, he was aware that he felt patches of itching all over his body, on his arms, his legs, his torso, even his face and head. The ambulance arrived within 7 minutes, but the EMTs took one look at Greg, whose inert body seemed enveloped in a mist of white, waving insect-like feelers, before they retreated to their vehicle. "Code 99, Code 99, one of the EMTs barked into their radio, giving their location and requesting backup. The radio crackled and dispatch said, "Another one?" "Yep," the EMT answered, lips tight with tension. "Where are they all coming from?" dispatch said. "I don't know," the EMT shouted, "but get some help here pronto, before it starts moving." It was the SWAT team that arrived first, along with a bus. The SWAT members quickly apprehended Greg's colleagues, confiscating their phones and herding them onto the bus. They refused to answer any questions other than to tell the frightened people they were going to a decontamination center. The EMTs were also taken into custody. Another emergency vehicle arrived with a crew dressed in hazmat suits. 3 of them slowly approached Greg's car, one stepping forward to pull open the door. He or she jumped back, as well as one can jump in a hazmat suit. For Greg, or what was left of him, had crawled out of the car and had thrown his or its arms around the person in the hazmat suit. At least, that's what it looked like. But it was hard to know, as Greg's figure was completely enveloped in white waving tentacles, some 2 to 3 inches thick, some of them several feet long. It did have a head, what was left of Greg's head, but now there were long waving stalks growing out of his nose, his ears, his mouth, even some blood-stained ones growing out of his eyes. A SWAT member ran forward, aimed his automatic weapon at the thing that had once been a man named Greg, and fired off a short burst. And the thing exploded! It exploded! Instantly, the air was filled with white threads, stalks, and spores. Spores. Code 99 was quickly elevated to Code 999, and a 30-block area around the scene of the explosion was quickly cordoned off. It started with an itch. It woke him up in the middle of the night, a bad itch on the tip of his right thumb. He scratched it and rubbed it against his other fingers, and eventually the itching subsided. Either that or he fell asleep. When Michael woke up and had gone into the bathroom for his morning leak, he remembered the itchy thumb and took a look at it and screamed. The moral of the story: if you give them an itch, they'll give you a pile. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs. Till midnight. Cheers. Oh, sorry about that. I have kind of a bad itch right now. Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pix here. That's PX here. Oh, that feels better. While the music was the awesome aftermath by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod. Thank you for listening. Oh, that feels better. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.